BookTube. I'm making an extra video here, and I'm once again using you as guinea pigs for purposes that I can't really assess on my own. I can listen to a test video myself, but that's me, and I already know what I said, and a lot of that is aiding my own hearing. You're the ones who are really going to know the quality on this thing, the sound quality. There's nothing I can do about the way I look, but I can at least be choosy about the way I sound. I've learned over the course of watching BookTube videos that that's really the deal killer. And what I want to know in this video, we'll do this test video anyway, I'll upload it anyway, but what I want to know is how noticeable is the background noise in this location. This is the old book room where so many of my videos have been filmed. But I moved in here because the afternoon became just too hot to be anywhere else. This room is small, it's closed off, and it has an AC unit in the window. So I've got the AC unit running in the window on a low power setting, and I've got a window fan sitting on the floor circulating the air. And I did this mostly for Frida. You could even see in some of the videos that I filmed earlier today that the heat was really starting to get to her. This is an exceptional circumstance. It's not going to be like this usually. She's pretty hardy, even when it's warm, but today it's murderously hot. So eventually, when it became too bad, I moved in here, reluctantly, since all the outer rooms, everywhere else in the world is perfectly comfortable for me. But not for normal warm-blooded creatures, so I moved in here, and then it occurred to me, well, it's not all or nothing, you know? I was talking about not filming anything tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be even hotter than today. And I was talking about not filming anything tomorrow, and then I thought, well, you have a room that's perfectly comfortable for Frida. Is it possible for you to clearly hear me over the background noise in this video? I'm going to upload the video anyway, and if all the comments are, what? Huh? Then I'll have my answer. But I have an occasion anyway. I wasn't just going to make a dummy video where I just natter on about nothing. Who would ever make a video like that, much less establish a whole channel based on that? Because I did indeed get a second mail shipment. Some packages, and I also wanted to show you a bit of mail that came yesterday that I didn't show you then, which is Asimov's and Analog, two square-bound digest science fiction magazines that I dearly, dearly loved. I subscribed to them a year ago, and I got a couple of issues, and then they stopped. And I thought, okay, well, I want them to have the subscription money. The COVID year was as hard on magazines as it was on anybody, in fact, maybe more so. So I didn't sweat it at all, but they have recently started coming again. So these two are the September-October issues. For Asimov's, which is marginally my favorite of the two, a lot of you have asked that, marginally I tend to get more enjoyment out of Asimov. Here we have Greg Egan, Elizabeth Bear, Rick Wilbur, Jason Sanford, James Gunn, James Van Pelt, Bruce Boston, and the magazine is going back 60 years or whatever, and it has short stories, longer short stories, novellas. It has nonfiction segments like book reviews or columns. I think Asimov's has a column by Robert Silverberg, probably the greatest living science fiction author, him or Samuel Delany, one of those two. Yeah, his column this time around is ROC of Ages. Rock of Ages. Imagine it'll be a column about giant birds. Yes, it was only a coincidence, I suppose, that last Tuesday was Big Bird Day around here. For some time now, I had been reading Marco Polo's account of his long journey in China. Marco Polo talks about stories that he heard about the island of Madagascar, where there are giant birds that can pick elephants up off the ground and drop them like clamshells and then eat their shattered remains. Okay, so last Tuesday just happened to be Big Bird Day, and you just happened to be reading Marco Polo. Okay, great. All right. I had long ago encountered this great bird in the Arabian Nights in the second voyage of Sinbad. Okay, where the Sinbad also talks about giant birds that pick elephants up off the ground and eat them. He's famously climbing on a giant white mound that he assumes is a mountain, but it's actually a bird's egg. Okay, so I suppose you just happened to be reading that too, right? And then that same day, I happened to be... Does anybody actually believe this when columnists do this kind of crap? And then that same day, I happened to be browsing through the Silmarillion. Did you really? So you just happen to be encountering 3 books that have giant birds in them. J.R.R. Tolkien's highly miscellaneous compendium of material supplementary to his Lord of the Rings trilogy, and found this, quote, there flew down from the high airs Thorondon, king of eagles, mightiest of all birds that have ever been, whose outstretched wings spanned 30 fathoms, and staying Fingon's hand, he took him up and bore him to the face of the rock where Maedhros hung. And so forth, Silverbird writes. Thorondon and other helpful eagles, the great eagles of the Misty Mountains, speak in the tongues of man and elves and show up again and again in the trilogy performing mighty deeds. Okay, that's a little awkward, isn't it? Of course, any of you who've ever read Lord of the Rings will know it's Thorondor, not Thorondon. It's just ended in N, ends in an R. It's a typo. But it's a typo that occurs a couple of times, and it's not like Robert Silverberg can shift the typo off to somebody else. He's using it himself. He types the name himself in addition to typing it in a quote. And he doesn't catch it, rereading his column, and no editors catch it. A little bit alarming. But this has him. He's usually better than that. I don't believe that he just happened to be coincidentally perusing through 3 books that have giant eagles in them on Big Bird Day. But then the other is analog, and analog differs. The main difference from analog between analog and Asimov's is that analog is you can see science fiction and fact, and it will often have long pieces on science fact that aren't fiction at all, that are meditations on the latest astronomy of the day. So here we have Jay Werkheiser does the Kepler's Law, the cover story. Jay Werkheiser. I don't think I know that name. Adam Troy Castro does a novella. There are novelettes. That's the story. That's the name for a slightly longer short story by J.T. Shara and Marco Frassetto. I don't think I know either one of those names. Then there are short stories by Bianca Sayan, Marissa Lingen, Joel Richards, Holly Schofield, Marie Vibert. Marie Vibert I know from last time. Okay, I don't recognize any of these names except for hers. I certainly know no standards in the industry. That's odd. Okay, but what is the science fact this time around? Donald Wilkins writes about orbital nuclear power systems. I'm comforted already. That's all right. So there you go. And I got Analog and Asimov's. Those came yesterday, and maybe that means we've got a sun situation going on here, don't we? Well, but you're not here for what you're looking at, right? You're here for what you're hearing. I'll tell you all about what you need to see. That's the sun. All right, so that is an angle there. I'm never in this room at this time of day. Never. It's just for Frida's sake. She's right here. She's at the end of the bed. But then we also have 3 packages to go through, and you don't need, as long as I can show you these things, you don't need the perfect picture quality. It's the guinea pig nature of the experiment is about the sound, not the visual. So what is this first one we've got here? Oh, okay. This is a finished copy of something that we got a while ago. This must be coming out. Yes, September 1st. This comes out on September 1st from Thomas and Mercer, the thriller arm of Amazon Publishing. This comes out on the 1st of September. This is Constance by Matthew Fitzsimmons. Some of you will remember the absolutely winning premise of this book. But let's go over it just in case you're new or don't remember it. What if detective and victim were the same person? Is essentially it. The main character is tasked with investigating their own murder. Let's see here. Fitzsimmons, who earned widespread rave reviews for his Gibson Vaughn 5-book thriller series, he earned widespread praise, lots and lots of fans. Didn't make him smile. He's not going to smile for his author photo. Heaven forfend. Consistently delivers riveting plot lines featuring nuanced characters who face extraordinary circumstances. In this new standalone novel, well, standalone for now. If it takes off, I'm sure we'll have another 5-book series. A cool hybrid of classic mystery fused with speculative fiction presents eponymous main character Constance, Con Darcy. She's a tough, resilient survivor whom Fitzsimmons imbues with emotional vulnerability. Speculative fiction is the highfalutin literary fiction term when an author writes science fiction, but A, doesn't want to be ghettoized like most science fiction is, and B, maybe doesn't want to be held to the high standard of world building that science fiction usually is. It usually cuts in both directions. My suspicious Aloysius hackles always go up when I hear speculative fiction. In the near future, technology allows the very wealthy to cheat death by buying their own clones for $20 million apiece and regularly uploading their consciousnesses. Con is broke, but she was gifted a clone by her late aunt, who was instrumental in the program's development. After a routine monthly upload stored for that inevitable transition, something goes wrong. When Con wakes up in the clinic, it's 18 months later. Her recent memories are missing. Her original, she's told, is dead. She died. And she wakes up in her clone body, but with a significant gap in her recorded memories. If that's true, what does that make her? Faced with the horrifying realization, Con finds herself investigating her own murder. She has a gap in her memory, and she's not the person who died. She's a clone of that person. She has to solve her own murder. That, if Matthew Fitzsimmons woke up in the middle of the night with that idea and rolled over right away to write it down before it went away, maybe in that one elusive moment, he smiled. With no resources, no recollections to use as guidance, and no trustworthy allies, she retraces the steps of her original, determined to find out why she died and keep it from happening again. This is the 1st of September. I got this original copy a while ago, and I fell in love with the premise. Absolutely did. And I also I know that this doesn't prove everything, but I like the fact that the author has a long track record of writing audience-pleasing novels. That means I probably don't have to worry about this being poorly executed. Sometimes I get science fiction, or, speculative fiction novels where the premise is brilliant. Not quite as brilliant as this, but still brilliant. But the execution, the writer has either never written anything before, or they've never written anything for a work-a-day, strap-hanging audience. I get the impression from Mr. Gloomypuss that he has, and that maybe I can expect this to be really enjoyable. 1st of September probably means I could get to it right away. That was a pure happenstance that the book hit the platform on which the camera is sitting. I exhaustively vetted this setup so that wouldn't happen. I'll give you another. See, there's the fan on the floor. I'll give you another nostalgic look at the little book room. This is my little book room. For those of you who are brand new to the channel, or relatively new and never saw any videos that were filmed in this location, this is my little book room. This is the heart and soul of, these are the books I dearly love. If you freeze the frame and zoom in, as I'm sure some of you bookworms are going to do, you'll see that there's almost no rhyme or reason to these books. Almost none at all. They're just here because I love them. Most of them are just here because I love them. And I've filmed a million videos against that backdrop that a number of people said was bought online. I bought an electronic backdrop like that online. No, I bought that over the course of a misspent life. That's what I did. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the next package here. Keeping in mind the guinea pig nature of this video, which is for you to tell me all about the audio. No need this time around, anyway, to spend any great length of time telling me about how great I look. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. The main question... Alright, okay, you want to see it again. There you go. Samuel Adams up there, a couple of teddy bears up there, some plants up there, Bigfoot way up there in the corner. Got some oversized books on that corner bookcase because there's really tall shelves. You got the bookcase right there that has all the romances on it. That's a whole romance bookcase. See, there you go. You got the elephant of surprise. You got the knitted little medal of Frida. You have Elsa, the octopus. There you go. Okay. Now, eyes on the prize. All right. So what have we got here? Oh, great. Okay. Boy, it's been a while since I heard about this. I actually started to think I just wouldn't get it. Fantastic. Okay, this is also September 1st. Probably the reason why it was so long between when I talked about this with the publicist and when I'm getting it is because probably I said a finished copy would be fine. I don't actually need an advanced copy. And that is probably the reason. We never saw this before. This is by Jonathan Bate, who's great. He's a great author. And this is Bright Star Green Light, The Beautiful Works and Damned Lives of John Keats and F. Scott Fitzgerald. What do Keats and Fitzgerald share in common? They're both enormously talented. Both had lovely hair. Both were lifelong, dyed-in-the-wool, can't go without tobacco addicts. Let's find out what Jonathan Bate says they have in common. Let's see here. This is from the folks at Yale University Press. In this radiant dual biography, Jonathan Bate explores the fascinating parallel lives of John Keats and F. Scott Fitzgerald, writers who worked separately on different continents a century apart in distinct genres, but whose lives uncannily echoed. Not only was Fitzgerald profoundly influenced by Keats, titling Tender is the Night and other works from the poet's lines, but the two shared similar fates. Both died young, loved to drink, were plagued by tuberculosis, were haunted by their first love, and wrote into a new decade of release, experimentation, and decadence. Maybe he'll mention the crippling drug addiction that they both had. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. Oftentimes, even with scholastic professionals like Bate, the thing that will determine whether or not they mention the drug addiction that rules so many people's lives is whether or not they themselves share that addiction. If Bate has spent his whole life doing 3 packs a day and has graduated to a scholarly 1 pipe frantically every 15 minutes, then maybe that's the reason why he just won't mention it. We'll see. Both were outsiders and romantics, longing for the past as they sped blazingly into the future. To anybody but Jonathan Bate, I would call that facile. Keats and Fitzgerald weren't outsiders, unless you're going to redefine the word right out of any kind of meaning. Using Plutarch's ancient model of parallel lives, I'm sold. Jonathan Bate recast the inspired lives of two of the greatest, best-known romantic writers. He keeps calling Fitzgerald a romantic writer with a capital R. Commemorating both the bicentenary of Keats' death and the centenary of the Roaring Twenties, this is a moving exploration of literary influence. Okay, well, I'm going to read anything this author writes anyway. Foundation Professor of Environmental Humanities at Arizona State University and a Senior Research Fellow at Oxford University, where he was formerly Provost of Worcester College. Great, fantastic. And 1st of September, so again, no particular reason why I can't read this right away. Will it be strained? And let's look at the table of contents. Is it going to explicitly echo Plutarch? Or that would be too much to ask for. That would be just too much to ask for. No, it does not. So it's going to tell parallel lives intertwined in one narrative, which is not what Plutarch does. He tells one life, then tells another life, and then he intertwines them in an essay specifically devoted to that task. But that's okay. That's all right. This is going to be fascinating. Probably one of the more fascinating things that I read this weekend. And then we have one of these big white envelopes, and then this guinea pig video will be done. I'll upload it, and I'll get your verdict. Let's see what this thing is. Another finished copy. Oh, great. Okay. We saw this already. We saw the advanced copy of this, and it got a lot of interest from a lot of you. A lot of you left comments and also emailed me saying that you found this particular thing interesting. And here's the finished copy. This is due in the first week of September, so not September 1st, but September 7th. Does that mean September 1st is a Tuesday? I don't have a calendar in front of me. September 1st must be a Tuesday. Well, anyway, this is by Samuel Moyne, and this is Humane, How the United States Abandoned Peace and Reinvented War. And then we have a barren landscape around something that looks a lot like Afghanistan with iconography of drone visual finders. In this book, Yale law professor and historian Samuel Moyne lays out the fascinating history of the often conflicting efforts to bring an end to all war on the one hand and to make war less brutal on the other. Beginning with the foundation of the Red Cross and Leo Tolstoy's passionate opposition to its mission, Tolstoy believed that the effort to make war less brutal would ultimately help guarantee its presence in the future. The author traces the history up to our present day, in which the United States' method of war making is simultaneously cleaner and more humane than it has ever been before, but also more widespread and never-ending. Humane focuses on, in particular, on the evolution and the legal framework around war, showing how we went from abhorring the crime of war itself to instead focusing much more narrowly on punishing and preventing war crimes. To help tell this history, Moyne zeroes in on a series of figures from the anti-war Tolstoy and Henry Dunant, co-founder of the Red Cross, to Telford Taylor, U.S. prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials, and George W. Bush's era lawyers Jack Goldsmith and John Yoo. Moyne traces this story through the evolution of the international humanitarian law and the United States wars in Korea and Vietnam, the Abu Ghraib scandal, and the dramatic expansion of targeted killings under Obama and Trump presidencies. Set to be published just before the 20th anniversary of 9/11, Humane delivers essential context and a provocative argument that will add much to the conversation this fall. There won't be any conversation this fall, but there might be conversation about this book. This book might get widely reviewed. Interesting. Okay, so all 3 finished copies for this guinea pig email or video. So we have Humane by Samuel Moyne. I have the advanced copy of this thing, haven't gotten to it. We have Bright Star Green Light by Jonathan Bate. Don't have an advanced copy of this thing, but I never miss this author. It's just a must-read historian, his must-read biographer. Then Constance by Matthew Fitzsimmons, where a clone must solve her own murder. And then Asimov's and Analog, which appear to be flowing again to me. I appear not to have to worry about sending the Surly Houseboy to the bookstore to buy the latest issues. They appear to be coming in the mail. These 2 came in pristine condition, wrapped in plastic. So maybe I worried for nothing about that. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up this video. That was Mail Haul number 2. Give you another glimpse of the book room. This is my heart and soul. This is the pretentious word, the pretentious term for it would be my inner sanctum, my sanctum sanctorum. Everybody who reads, every person who wants to get any kind of work done, any kind of reading done, should have a room like this, a little space like this. It's absolutely essential. That I think. I mean, you can go without it, of course you can, but if any way possible, to make a little space like this for yourself that is just you and your books, and in my case the bean, then you should try and do it. But this is mine. Everywhere I have ever lived, the first thing that I do is find a very small room that I can make into this room. I live everywhere else. I spend time in all the other rooms. I spend time in the parlor, in the living room, the dining room, and whatnot, but I live in this room. I recharge in this room. And I keep the AC unit in this room, not coincidentally. I don't, once upon a time, oh my God, once upon a time I lived in this room because I lived to avoid the heat. Now I don't at all. I wouldn't be in here with that thing blasting if not for my little nugget. But it is blasting, and the fan is circulating the air on the floor because I don't have a ceiling fan in this version of this little room. I used to. I don't anymore. So I want to know, in addition to what you think about these books, I want to know how you found the background sound. Is it regular and soft enough so that you could ignore it? Or is it intrusive? I can't tell. Really, when you're listening to yourself, I can't really tell. So you tell me, and we at least saw some books together. So I'm going to wrap this up, and I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.